let me see where the U.S. dollar Russian ruble is right now. That will give me some insight. It's actually gone up incrementally. It's about 80.70 right now, 80.954. That's what
Hmm.
it's showing right now as we talk. But it's actually the Russian ruble's gotten actually stronger over the last 7 months since Trump has come into power, essentially,
There you
based
go.
on, I believe, no, based on the behavioral sentiment of financial institutions that are involved in Russian business and trading the ruble, believing that things will get better for Russia over time.
Hmm.
And they're leaning into a stronger ruble. Now, speaking about that, what do you think about what's going on between the US and India right now? It's amazing to me how the wheels have fallen off of this alliance that was growing. And
Hmm.
people of India, I have a lot of colleagues there, you have colleagues there,
Hmm.
they're not just offended, they're angry by the
Yep.
stance the US is taking
Yep.
regarding the tariffs. And as I said to you a couple weeks ago, while the US is saying, hey, you're taking far too much Russian oil. Someone pointed out that the US does take some chemicals from Russia. Okay. And I looked it up, and apparently they do. This is true. Okay. Scott Bessent, though, surprisingly to me, because he seems to be more diplomatic about things a lot of the time, came out last week and basically pointed out that a lot of the oil that India is buying is controlled by the so-called oligarchs of India. And they're making a fortune on buying the oil and selling it to refineries or for use in India, but also reselling it out into the world because they get Russian oil at a discount and they
Mm.
make money on it. Because
Hmm.
the Russians, to control some of the market and keep share, sell at a slightly lower price than West Texas Intermediate or what the Saudis sell, apparently. And it just interests me that the US is kind of blowing a chance here to be a stronger partner with India and basically
Hmm.
driving them back into the Russian sphere and even
Yeah.
the Chinese sphere. And it's
Absolutely.
surprising to me. Now, India is a non aligned country. I think that's a perfectly legitimate political philosophy or theorem that they practice in the world. They have maybe the strongest demographic in the entire globe in terms of youth burgeoning
Hmm.
promise regarding their economy over the long term in terms of growth with GDP.
Hmm.
By the way, the US GDP numbers will come out on Thursday, and that's going to be something people should watch. But what do you make of this whole thing with India? Do you think that Trump is making a major mistake with this? I do think they're making a major mistake.
I do
I
too.
think they
Yeah.
should have treated them much better.
Yeah. I don't think he's very good with foreign policy. I don't think he completely understands it. I think he looks at everything as sort of a zero sum game where it's just he has to win or America has to be perceived to have won, and he
Mm.
just wants tariffs from everybody. He's doing it to Japan, South Korea, Canada, of course, Mexico, all of our top trading partners, and he's throwing all of them into the arms. I mean, as I've said before several times, China just loves this. They're gonna clean up as much as they can while it's worth getting. And now India is just the latest on that list, and so and it's sort of a. I mean, I guess there's one little good thing about it, which is China and India, at least for those two, not for us, but China and India have had this little skirmish going on for several years now on their border in the
Yeah,
Himalayas. And yeah,
yeah,
and
for a
so
while.
it gives China a reason to sort of back off from that and try and befriend them some more, you
Yeah,
know.
absolutely. It
Yeah.
gives China the ability to open up the Indian market a little bit more,
Yep.
to be taken
Absolutely.
seriously, to actually export into India and, try to make, I guess, some promises to India to allow them to basically try to get access to the China market, but that isn't so easy. But
Mm-hmm.
what's intriguing to me here is that Trump has claimed before that he's a friend of Modi. the
Yeah.
leader of India,
Right.
but he's hurting him in a big way. For
Yeah.
instance, part of these tariffs are hurting the diamond industry in India, which is big. And apparently, there's a feeling that some people are going to lose their livelihood, a lot
Mm.
of people, if the tariffs really come into play here. And
Yeah.
there hasn't been any talk about some agreements yet. And again, it comes
Hmm.
back to this thing. They're really pressing India very hard on the Russian oil.
Yeah, there's also word that Trump wants to push harder on the agriculture industry in India, and the problem with that is Modi is drawing the line there and is willing to suffer, he said publicly, for that line because there's a large group of his constituents that come from agricultural regions, and there's this
It's a
just
big part of
very
the economy still a
it is
big
a
part of the
very
economy,
big part of their
and it's
economy. Yeah,
small
one of the
scale
biggest.
farming. It's small
Yep,
scale farming a lot of the
yep.
time, where they don't have a lot of logistics and infrastructure, and
Mm-hmm.
people grow vegetables or do what they produce what
Yeah,
they have via their farms and sell it at markets locally. And they
right.
feel it's a big danger to bring or force these farmers out of there because you can't really easily move the farmers into the manufacturing sector or
Correct.
the IT sector.
Right, and they're a very powerful group when they band together, and there's something that they don't like. So Modi doesn't want to. He doesn't want to risk that. That can make life miserable for him if he
Yeah,
tries to
yeah,
force something on them that some foreign country insisted on. So he's willing to blow whatever nascent deal they had just over that.
yeah. Well, it's amazing to me that the U.S. didn't do something a little bit more discreetly with them, you know,
Mm-hmm. I
because
agree.
a little like the situation with China and about the saving face and not embarrassing people.
Mm-hmm.
Culturally, India doesn't want to be talked to like it's an
Yeah.
unimportant country.
Yeah.
It's got the
Nobody
biggest
does.
population in the world.
Right.
It's a
Yeah.
dynamic place.
Yeah. And people around
It,
the country are looking at, they're seeing the news feeds that they get, with, this stupid National Guard in the streets of cities and all this other nonsense and people getting dragged out of their houses and cars and stuff. They see that stuff too, and they're laughing at us and they're saying, why should we take anything you say seriously anymore? You used to be all about nagging us on human rights, and now you're just like trying to get money from us. And you're among the worst offenders for human rights and stuff. We can't take you seriously anymore. That's what they're saying. I mean, I do business around the world, so do you. I hear it firsthand. People are telling me that they're just like, it's just so stupid, and
yeah,
but
but
they're having a
that's
good laugh for it.
perceptions.
Yeah.
That's perceptions. Look,
Well, yeah, but it's a common
every,
perception, very common.
I agree. I agree with you. But every country, if you really take a look at their history, probably has a blemish or two that they don't want to really discuss in public. You know, and
Well, yeah.
perceptions are driven by hyperbole, by media, by you and I. I mean, our podcast being the most famous one in the world. What we just
Hmm.
said about India will probably change a lot of minds, I guess.
Yeah, that's what we do. The Risk Reward Show is a weekly podcast covering current events and worldwide business. Headquartered in Los Angeles and Tel Aviv, with partners in London, New York, Chicago, Shanghai, Mumbai, and Cape Town, we source opinions and news directly from where they happen and then pass them along to you. Look for us wherever you get your podcast fix.
All right, let's change topics here for a second, and let's go to China. Not too far away, the 80th anniversary of victory for the People's Liberation Army will be held on September the 3rd, a big military parade in Beijing. It's been talked about. There are rumors of a military shakeup in China over the last few months, about the process of decision making changing within the mandated structure of the Communist Party. And also, in October, after this military parade, they're going to have their 15th conclave for the 5-year plan, which they're
Mm-hmm.
going to bring forward.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Summer, have you heard any rumors about a change?
It is true that Xi Jinping has been less on the world stage than previously. over the last few
Hmm.
months. So all this speculation, because he isn't seen as often, there's a lot of speculations that's sort of arisen from that. We'll find out. Yeah, he might have had a
Yeah,
health issue or something, and so he's staying
health
away
issue
from
is
the
important.
public. Yeah, well,
Yeah,
of
but
course,
I
you know. But
I
I
think we're
think
gonna.
that so we've got September and October coming up, which are two big months for China. Yeah, I don't know anything about what they're going to put on the current five and the new 5 year plan. It'd be
How
nice
would
if
you
they
know?
go back to what they had. Well, sometimes you hear ahead of time. They'll
Oh,
announce.
really?
Yeah, they'll let it leak to people in those sectors ahead of time, so they're prepared to
Okay.
make announcements and speeches and stuff. What it did, the 5 year plan is a. If anybody, it's for those who don't know, 5 year plan is something that some communist governments employ. They do this in Russia over 100 years ago, and
I
then
believe
or
that
then
was
like
called
every
the
5 years,
Soviet Union.
and then the Chinese went communist in 1949. The communists took over in 1949, and Mao instigated the same kinds of 5 year plans, and it was mostly to get people's hopes up that the government was going to focus on this. And usually it was
Yes.
things like famine back then and poverty and stuff like that. But it was also maintaining control over people.
Famines that were caused by
In one
the
instance,
nations
yes.
themselves,
Yeah, yeah.
by
Mao,
Stalin, by Mao.
correct.
Let's point out
Yeah, that's absolutely true. There are millions of people who
plans that
died from that.
the 5 year plans that the Soviet Union was putting out were some of the biggest comedy pieces and dramas
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
released, and the public ate it up and just would read this stuff apparently
yeah.
and look at it and say, "Hand me a bottle of vodka because I need to amuse
Right.
myself in another way."
Yeah, and it was
Now,
made fun of in the West, and it was part of the comedy. We would hear about this stuff. I mean, it still exists in songs that are
yeah,
still
yeah,
popular today,
yeah.
like 5 year plans and New Deals, because everybody's trying to make things better.
But,
Anyway, so here's the
but,
thing that about 10 years ago, well, 15 years ago, the 5 year plan, when I started working with China for
mm,
entertainment stuff, it's because that was part of that 5 year plan, and it was actually a very
right,
good plan they had for the entertainment sector. What they would tell the government sort of picks like 5 or 6 or 8 different topics,
mm-hmm,
saying this is what we're going to focus on for the next 5 years. They tell all the
mm-hmm,
provinces that, which is another way that the news leaks out, because there's a lot of people who
mm-hmm,
find out in the weeks ahead of a formal announcement. And so sometimes it'll be infrastructure, sometimes it'll be, well, 15 years ago it was for a big part of it was for entertainment. They'd already brought all these people out of poverty, which is still amazing. And they wanted people to be spending money on entertainment and bringing people into China, and also getting stories about China and Chinese people out into the world, right? So they wanted to, link up with people from Hollywood and learn how the Hollywood way of development was. I consulted for a whole bunch of companies doing just that, because they all, in these different provinces, they all wanted sort of expertise and to be able to tell their investors that they were doing this. And so we would have there was a lot of stuff going on. And then they kind of like faded out as Xi Jinping didn't, the next 5 year plan 5 years later didn't include all that. There was also a whole thing back then. It was really funny. Every province wanted to get its own amusement park, but they didn't
mm-hmm.
want to have to pay for the IP rights, the intellectual property rights of actual characters that they'd heard of, like Tom and Jerry and Mickey Mouse and stuff. So they would cart us, people like me who were helping them and maybe had some kind of link they thought to Hollywood, which I do. They would cart us all over the China. I saw all of China this way because all these provinces wanted to get their own amusement park. And the conversation inevitably went to, here are the characters. They would have this big presentation after letting you tour the land that they're going to have, which sometimes
Mm-hmm.
has no roads leading into it. They just want to get money from the government to build something that's going to have a whole bunch of housing with it and retail, and then that's how they make money off it as a province. It's this whole thing, right? And
Which
so
can lead to
every
chaos.
single time, I don't think I saw one or talked to one local government that was remotely interested in actually licensing the IP rights from the studios of these things they were talking about. And so at some point, I would tell them, okay, great presentation, love this. Have you started discussing the IP rights, the licensing rights for any of these characters? You've got it in 5 different lands. You've got this character. That's a different studio from that character. And these guys, Cars Land, whatever. They would kind of push back a little bit politely. And then I'd say, well, you have to have that. Otherwise, first of all, I can't help you because it's illegal. And then they would shut it. There was one point where they shut it down. It was in Chongqing in the Sichuan region, which was just great food. But anyway, and they stopped the meeting when I told them that, and they said, okay, meeting's over, and they put myself and my colleagues into this van, and they drove us back to the airport, shipped us back to Beijing that day.